G'day guys, welcome to today's video review of 1917. In the run-up to the 92nd Annual Academy Awards on the 10th of February, this is the first in a series of reviews for the 9 movies nominated for Best Picture at this year's ceremony. So if you missed any of the movies nominated for Best Picture this year and want to catch up before the awards, I'll be doing spoiler reviews for each one over the next few weeks. Starting off with Sam Mendes, 1917. Two soldiers, Will Schofield and Tom Blake, are resting away from the front line. Schofield is leaning against a tree and Blake is lying on the ground. They're approached by a sergeant who tells Blake to pick a man and grab your stuff. They're taken to see General Ehrenmoor, played by Colin Firth, who tells Blake his brother is on the front line with Colonel Mackenzie, who believes they're chasing the retreating Germans. However, the Germans have pulled back and the line is now 9 miles back, and 1,600 men will be storming into a trap as they're going over the top tomorrow. They're ordered to cross here into no man's land as the Germans have pulled back so they won't encounter any resistance, and make their way to Colonel Mackenzie at the new front line and order them to stop the assault. We follow the two soldiers as they traipse through the mud of the trenches, stepping over dead bodies to get to an officer to deliver the message to allow them to go over the top. The soldiers there don't know what day it is, but show them a path to follow, give them a flare gun, and tells them that if they do happen to make it, to let off a flare to let them know they made it. They go over the top into no man's land and crawl through the mud past bodies and rats. Schofield cuts his hand on a barbed wire fence and then accidentally plunges it into the chest of a corpse. 2 British planes fly over as they reach the old German frontline trench. They discover that the German trenches are in fact deserted, and they find their way into an underground room filled with bunk beds, which they marvel at. They find a path through the trenches, but it's booby-trapped. A rat then sets off the tripwire, and the explosion caves in the roof, covering Schofield with debris. Blake digs him out and they escape through a mine shaft. As they exit the mine shaft, they see the British planes on their return journey and they fire off the flare to signify that they made it through. They keep walking towards their target and they get to the outskirts of a destroyed village. The Germans have cut down all the cherry blossom trees and Blake tells of how his mum has an orchard back home. They get to an abandoned barn and Schofield finds a bucket of milk and fills his canteen. They witness a dogfight between the 2 British planes and 1 German plane, which gets shot down. The German plane crash lands into the barn. Blake scrambles to pull the pilot out. As he's calming him down, the German pilot pulls out a knife and stabs Blake in the stomach. Schofield immediately turns and shoots and kills the German pilot and tries dragging Blake back to his feet. Blake is bleeding out and his face is getting pale. Blake makes Schofield promise that he'll write to his mum and complete the mission. Blake then dies in Schofield's arms. Schofield takes the map, the letter to the colonel, and Blake's rings and dog tags and tries dragging his body away. 2 British soldiers appear as a caravan of colonels and troops is now passing through no man's land. Their captain, Smith, played by Mark Strong, gives him a lift in the back of a truck after Schofield explains his orders. The truck soon gets stuck in the mud, and despite the fact that they get it going again, they eventually come to the bridge through the town, which is destroyed, and so they have to drive around it. Schofield gets out of the truck as this will take too long, and he only has until morning to get to Colonel Mackenzie to call off the charge. While crossing the broken bridge, Schofield is shot at by a German sniper. He makes it across and fires back. He runs into the building and up the stairs, where he confronts the sniper and they shoot each other simultaneously. Schofield wakes up with a head wound. As he picks up his gun to check to see that the sniper's dead, the town is lit up by flares. He tries running through the town, but's constantly being shot at, so he ducks inside a house to hide, where he finds a lonely, frightened French girl. She tends to his wounds and we discover that she has a baby there, but she doesn't know who the mother is. He leaves her with all his food and the canteen of milk for the baby. He hears bells signifying morning. She tries to convince him to stay as the Germans will see him in the daylight, but he must go before the charge. He fights with a German soldier and ends up strangling him so his drunk partner doesn't hear. He then runs past him and bowls him over and runs through the town whilst being chased and shot at. He jumps into a river, which turns into rapids as he goes over a waterfall. He eventually comes to, clinging to a branch, makes his way to the bank and climbs over dead bodies to get to shore. He cries with exhaustion, relief, and disbelief once he gets to the land. It's here that he hears singing and walks through the forest towards it, where he finds troops gathered, sitting, leaning against trees, listening to a solitary singer. Schofield talks to the troops and discovers that this is D Company of the platoon that he's been looking for and bolts towards the front. The troops are all preparing for the assault and the trenches are full. Schofield tries to get the attention of one colonel who brushes him off. He finds another and tries him, but he's shell-shocked. To get to Colonel Mackenzie, Schofield has to run across the top of the trench. This triggers the assault for the first wave to go over the top. The trench is being bombarded by German artillery and Schofield runs through across the chaos of the men charging. Schofield pushes his way into Colonel Mackenzie, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and gives him the letter with orders from the general to call off the attack. He reluctantly does so and then callously tells Schofield to leave, as it's just another order and another one will come tomorrow. The sergeant at least says well done, and he asks him where Lieutenant Blake would be. He tells him that he would have definitely been in the first wave. Schofield then searches the field tents for Blake and finds him directing traffic. He tells Lieutenant Blake, which is played by Richard Madden, that his younger brother is dead and gives him his rings and dog tags. He then asks him if it's okay to write to his mother, as Tom had requested. He walks off towards a lone tree, and then mirroring the start of the movie, sits down and leans against it, looks at photos from home, then closes his eyes and tries to rest. At the conclusion, it says that the movie is dedicated to Alfred Mendez, the director's grandfather, for the inspiration and the World War I stories. The way this movie was marketed, I thought it was going to be a British Saving Private Ryan, but it really wasn't. The fact that you think the story revolves around Tom Blake, only for him to die extremely realistically halfway through the film, and realise that the main character is actually Will Schofield, was also something I didn't expect. The mud, the bodies, the rats, and I can only imagine the smell, are brought to life, and the long uncut tracking shots are not just there for a look at we can do value, but fully add to the story and the atmosphere. The shot at the start, for example, where they're drudging through the trenches, through mud, past men smoking, pacing, looking depressed, is truly exceptional and really gives you a scope for the length and cramped, filthy conditions of World War I trench warfare like no period movie before it. The movie is gripping and the characters engaging and developed enough in the short runtime. It's not just a World War I looking documentary, there's a cool little story with characters and a mission that you care about. The mission we've been watching is a minute-by-minute life and death struggle for these two characters, but it's just another order to the Colonel, and Lieutenant Blake has no time to mourn, as this is war. Schofield is lucky that anyone even acknowledged the dramas he went through to deliver the message and save countless lives, at least for one more day. Although I can't really say with the subject matter that you could say it was enjoyable, it's certainly an excellent film, well made, well acted, well executed. No wonder it's nominated for Best Picture at the 2020 Oscars, hey? So my rating for 1917 is 8.5 stars out of 10. Thanks for watching today, guys. As I said at the start of the video, this is the first in a series of reviews for all the 2020 Oscars Best Picture nominees. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to give us a like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.